before or after. I think I actually caught some of this game, but I didn't catch all of it, so, ooh, yeah. Let's see how this goes. Alright, on to the professionals now. You guys were amazing with all your submissions. But now we get to watch people who get paid to do this also make mistakes. In the bottom right, as the blue Zerg, is Clash's Reynor. And in the bottom left, as the red Terran, it is Liquid uThermal. And we are on Golden Wall, so, I mean, I'm also casting these replays to get an idea as to how the fuck I'm supposed to be playing these maps. As any race, really. I'm playing a lot of Protoss and Terran. Something about Zerg, I think it's because, while I enjoy the mechanics of Zerg, like creep spread and injecting and just feeling like I constantly have something to do, it's a very, like, stable APM, right? Just APM all the time. I don't enjoy losing, and unfortunately, I think I'm still kind of behind the point where I can just kind of focus on my macro to actually be okay at the game when I play Zerg. But for some reason, I adapted to Protoss fairly well. I'm actually okay with Protoss. And Terran, well, after 8 years of being a Terran main, like, I can just kind of settle into my Masters too and be all comfy-like. But Zerg, Zerg's too hard. I'd actually have to try. I don't want to try. I can just watch other Zergs like Reynor try for me and show me the way. But I also need to see how the hell I am supposed to expand on this map. Because, you know, the natural is obvious. The third base might even be obvious. But the fourth base gets a little questionable. Do you go all the way up to the north? Do you take the forward gold? Not a bad idea for Terran in most matchups, but a little risky. Or do I mine out the back and take this base? I'm sure we'll see different variations, some cool play, you know? There's going to be the norm, and there's going to be some stylistic things, and there's going to be the one really weird thing, like hiding your natural in the back in a TVT or something like that. But I'm looking for the norm. We'll see if this is the norm. Reynor checking around for 2 racks, as it looks like. His overlords kind of went wee woo. And then this one stayed around for the SCV scout. Yeah, if you see the SCV at a very early time, you're going to be a little suspicious, right? Eventually it can move out, but it also needs to be there to see Hellions in the future, probably. You don't really need more than one overlord to get some decent scouting as a Zerg. There's a lot of things that can tell you what's happening, even without seeing the actual thing. And a perfect example of that is a 3rd CC build. So 3rd CC after factory, uThermal, showing us one of the greedier builds you can do as Terran. But when you see that, if you see the 3rd CC, more power to you. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes the 3rd CC is put over here and the Overlord's like, oh, look at that. You know? If you don't, if it's trying to be hidden, the lack of supply depots at the front is kind of weird. Hellbat pushes actually require more supply depots than less, because you're constantly building Hellions, and you're delaying your 3rd CC. And a 2-1-1 requires, I think, a bit later on the depots, but it still requires depots, like at the front. The 3rd CC actually provides you with that supply that you usually have depots. So, anyways, I'm just trying to cover all my tracks, because that is actually a decent way for a Zerg player to figure things out. But kind of funny thing is happening here where the Overlord, I mean, that starport timing might seem like a little bit odd, but can you really look that much into it? The Overlord doesn't actually stick around the natural. This looks like it's a pervert pillar, but maybe it's not. He did see a bunker being built, though, and that is also a little bit suspicious, right? Like, that's very, 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 very safe. 2 Hellions show up. They wanted to see if there were roaches coming across the map, so there was kind of a necessity, even though one did die. The lack of consistent Hellions should also be a little bit surprising. Like, why aren't there 4 Hellions already? Why aren't there 6 Hellions already? And Reynor might be trying to piece together information, but really it's all about seeing this is happening here. So he's going to see the fusion core, probably the most important thing in this game. He might be able to figure out, again, it's a 3rd CC, the fusion core, the battle cruiser. You got to be prepared to deal against that. So Roach War on the way. A lair is now on the way. We went from having some pretty early lairs to get some decently timed spires to combat a lot of battlecruiser openers, like seriously every single flippin' TVZ, to basically no battlecruiser openers. I Am Katowice, I think, actually had like 0 battlecruiser openers for TVZ. I specify because I think there were a couple for TVP, but they're a little memey. If it wasn't 0, it was a crazy low amount. There was really like someone pressed a button and it switched, man. I don't know. Anyways. So then you can actually delay the layer a little bit, be a little bit greedier. Still need to worry about like a 2-tank timing, but yeah. Woo! The micro though. So he wants to be able to get to that spire. He needs to have a lair to do that. The roaches are going to come out here and help against the Hellion run-bys, which can be an equally deadly part about the battlecruiser opener. And then, oh, I actually mined out these minerals. And then the roaches are also going to help combat what is typically mech. But that's another thing we saw for I Am Katowice, was a lot of preference to bio. These SCVs, I think they were mining the minerals, and then they ran out of minerals to mine, so now they're all confused. The Lynx coming from the back, though, was a big surprise there for uThermal. He was hoping to get a very good mech game with easy 3 bases. And while he might still get that, he does lose a bit of mining time. His SCVs, 2 of them died, and his battlecruiser does not do a lot of damage. Reynor actually having his queens in a very appropriate place. Oftentimes it's in the main. And he did not have creep spread to his main, so that could have been maybe a little more dangerous, but it's the risk you take for both parties. Battlecruiser could go into the main, get bopped by 6 queens. Or if we go to the third. Don't actually know where the queens are. Ooh, that is a supply block. Ah! Yeah, the battlecruiser into mech thing was the most common thing we were seeing. But then I Am Katowice had like no mech. But it's good that Reynor predicted mech, and I don't think he actually technically scouted it. Like he predicted it. Yeah. So I mean, it's a good idea. I actually like this idea as far as mech goes, because getting this third base up here when you're playing mech can be a little bit difficult. It's a little bit farther out, and it does have access to the north side. Not the most difficult I've ever seen, but I like this idea because you also got to push from it. You know, if this was with Battle Mech, which it looks like it will be, we got the Cyclone upgrade on the way. With Battle Mech, you can just consistently go from your third base to their main base. And that's pretty scary. And Reynor almost did uThermal a favor by already mining this out, even though it cost him a couple SCVs. Hellions ended up regretting that choice. Whoops. Whoops. They do manage to slip out of the Ling's surround, though, and back into the pocket of the minerals. And, I mean, uThermal, mostly known for his micro. A lot of the young Terrans, a lot of the, like, any Terran, right, is known for their micro. But where there's Hero Marine, who's well known for the macro, there's uThermal, who was kind of that first upstart European Terran that we all had our eyes on, and had a lot of good micro to show. He managed to make something out of that, and now he's going to have a push with battlecruisers and cyclones, continuing to expand back at home, and finally starting those upgrades as well, something that Reynor will have an advantage on, going for the double attack upgrades, which is quite common against Battle Mech. It seems like Reynor has been anticipating this. I know that Reynor has had some words about the new map pool and his frustrations against Terran, but I'll get into that in a second. A couple spine crawlers are hoping to deny Hellions, not the actual push, so they're kind of useless against those tanks. Reynor needs to find some way to combat this. Going down a choke, going down a ramp against 3 tanks, that is going to be very difficult. Upgrades are almost done for both parties, and 2 battlecruisers are also anchoring this push, because that Spire, I mean, it came down, but I guess only now really going for the Corruptors. Not anticipating this to be as big of a problem as it was. Hellbats getting to the drone line are going to barbecue up about 10 drones there. Queens finally coming to the front line, but they have to transfuse themselves not through the battlecruisers, but through the tank fire as well. That hive about to complete could be very, very important. Not only is a hive generally important, but if you can get a couple of Vipers, you could actually abduct these tanks or blinding cloud these tanks and make it a lot easier to actually push back. With only 4 tanks, I do believe Reynor will eventually push this back. But this has been a lot of attention. Not so much a lot of damage, but a lot of attention being forced to focus on this main base to protect it. He doesn't want to lose his hive. He's going to try and break it now. A 5th tank could join up to the top side. That's a really good idea. And the corrosive bio is just not coming down as fast as you would expect. The Lings, the backside, actually were a little bit late to the party, so a lot of Ravagers ended up dying, and the Battlecruisers actually end up surviving. The Lings from the backside was a very, very good idea. It looks like it took them some time to mine out minerals. Yeah. But that was a very good idea. They were just a little bit mistimed. It was a little bit awkward. But you know what? Reynor might have lost a decent amount of Ravagers. Tanks did fall in that engagement, and he has been expanding elsewhere. As much focus as there was on that main base to kill that hive, there's been creep spread to the top side as well as bases and lots of mining. That main base mining was not that important. So it looked dangerous, but it was actually okay. I love this. This is not the side that you want to usually mine from, especially if you're going mech and you want that gas geyser, but you will certainly be able to safely mine those minerals and continue his expansion process to the south as well. Pretty cool use of the map. Reynor is going to go ahead and invest in centrifugal hooks and break down this wall and open up a pathway. This is actually now the vulnerable part of uThermal's expansion process. Doesn't usually happen. Reynor continuing to expand over the left side. Wow, he's going to take the entire top half of the map while uThermal takes the bottom half. Let's see. Oh, I was going to talk about something earlier and I forgot about it. Something about Hive. Double attack upgrades. Nope, I lost it. May come back later. Might be brought up again, whatever it was, I guess. I don't know. But uThermal has got to get back on the aggression. You can't really stop being aggressive as a Terran player. Maybe with a more typical mech. Oh, so many creepers going down there. The tank mech that you would see, that's a very slow style, but with bio, with battle mech, you got to be on the aggression all the time. So that includes clearing up creep spread. The more creep spread you clean up, so hard to say, the more opportunities you have for the Cyclones to go unnoticed and bop a hatchery, or Hellions to go unnoticed and kill 20 drones. But he's focusing a lot on the main engagement to the south, which makes a lot of sense. If Reynor ever did not take this seriously, he could have already lost his main base. But he's absolutely taking it seriously. He's also going for a big surrounding, and something that uThermal does not know about. Battlecruisers might be able to survive this ordeal by teleporting out, but everything else, running into Banelings as opposed to being surrounded by the Lings, both were not great options there. And uThermal is completely cleaned up, but Battle Mech, a little bit more like that bio. You can't actually replace it, especially since he's on 5 bases, actually. 5 mining minerals, at least. And 4 bases worth of gas guys. That's still a lot of cash to have. So he's going to try and remax as fast as possible and use whatever's left over as well. Reynor's the one that needs to get those Ling counts back up, as well as the Baneling counts. You know, like you want to be able to crash into those Hellbats and ideally crash into those Cyclones as well. But certainly the Hellbats. And then hopefully other things can take care of it. The Cyclones behind it. And sometimes that thing is Lings. Banelings crashing into everything right now. A good last-minute split there, and it looks like Reynor might have lost control of his main. He once again is going for a surround. This time the Battlecruiser spots it, and this time he does not get a surround before they're already up the ramp. 2 Hellbats exactly on the ramp is going to hold forever against Lings. The Battlecruisers finally die. They had previously used their teleport just 10 seconds ago, but that main base is entirely gone. The question is, does it actually matter as much as we think? If he starts a lair right now somewhere else and already like gets his way up to Hive, this isn't that big of a blip in his technology. He already has adrenal glands. He could try and start at 3-3 before this is gone as well. He certainly has minerals and gas for it. But it looks like he's going to be able to clean this up. Corruptors are trying to do some type of counterattack, find a base that was unprotected, but Cyclones were already here, and there's nothing that Corruptors can do about that. 11 drones lose their lives, but the Hive does stay alive. I still feel like this is just such a vulnerable point for him that is very questionable to actually defend. If we look at the technology that's available, it's a Hive and a spawning pool. Fairly easy to remake if you start now. He does start up his 3-3. No attempt to go into Vipers or Fungals, which can sometimes help. Rather just sticking on pure Ling, Baneling, Roach Ravager and trying to get surrounds. Alien's getting a couple of drones up the top side, but this attack on the south, once again, getting into the main base, and uThermal continuing to expand this way as well, is going to have the protection of planetaries. If Reynor isn't careful, if Reynor can't actually deal with this, the Hive is absolutely going to go down. The Cyclone lock-on is just too good. Like, if they're gonna kill something, they're gonna kill something. If they set their minds to it. Especially with the scan available, and uThermal does have plenty of those. He's been building extra command centers. He still has the first 3 or 4 orbitals he built in this game. And it's been on 90 workers, I think, for some time, so it's not like you really needed to mule. But the Hive snipe, while it was good, he does lose a lot of his army trying to retreat. He's still trying to remax as we speak, and he might be able to do so. He also might lose his command center. Looks like he's going to be alright. Reynor has taken this base back after it was killed earlier by a couple of Cyclones. Hellions are going to try and do some damage up there at the very least, and if they turn into Hellbats, Lings won't be able to help too much. All the command centers do live on the bottom side. Reynor redirects his attention to the top side entirely. Those Hellbats taking down plenty of Lings with them, but he also has another base up to the top left, and uThermal is, I think, losing control of stopping the Zerg expansion, even though his expansion process isn't too bad. Ideally, you're kind of doing both. Like, very much so, ideally, you are pushing into the Zerg's bases as you expand and you attack. So that if you ever are forced to retreat, you actually have a safe point to retreat to, and the Zerg feels more and more enclosed in whatever safe space they have. But with how big this map is and how they're both expanding, there's actually a lot of room for, well, both of them to move around. I'm talking more about the end goal of the Terran here. The end goal for Reynor is just to stop the momentum. If he can actually take not just a good fight defensively, but an amazing fight offensively, he can actually jump on top of production. Cyclones in small numbers do not do that well, and that's when uThermal really starts to sweat. Taking an okay fight right there up the ramp, and then also grabbing the command center with the Corruptors. They were made for the battlecruisers, but thankfully, since they got their little P ability, they've actually found some use besides that. I do think it's fair enough. Corruptors, when they just were Corruptors, were... they were uninteresting, and while they're pretty good at what they're supposed to do, anti-air, it was kind of lame to see 20 Corruptors made and not be able to do anything. Especially when you compare it to Vikings, able to land and lift, as well as any Protoss unit that flies. They all have multiple abilities. But sometimes it sucks because they do take down planetaries very, very quickly. Liberators are a decent way to improve your army. In fact, can sometimes be the real key to upgrading your army. It looks like maybe uThermal was thinking a bit about Broodlords. I think a handful of Thors is fine, so 4 Thors is fine, but if he's thinking about Broodlord potential, we'd see him probably go up to like 8 Thors, or, well, more than that, if he actually knew they were on the way. But he's seen Corruptors, he's not seen any more Corruptors, he's not seen a Greater Spire. From attack these down, and he's seen a lot of remaxed Roach Ravager Baneling, which is quite expensive, so he's just gonna try and add on Liberators, and they can be very nasty. The Ravagers, as we saw, take them out, but they kind of have to get in range to do so, and Liberator range is done. They also have at least 1 attack upgrade. Adrenal Gland, 3 attack Lings taking on the Thor, surprisingly enough. Main base once again goes down, but again, it's like, I mean, it's not even a Hive this time. You built that elsewhere. 4 more command centers on the way for uThermal. Just constant aggression back and forth. Once again, a bit of a surround here from Reynor, but uThermal now, as I said, had the protection of the planetary, which does have blending armor and high-sec auto-tracking. He can always try and retreat back there, and that's going to be a hard thing to bust if the army is also there. But the army has to be there too. 20 corrosive biles down a planetary, but it's not worth it if 15 lock-ons happen as well. That is a little scary. uThermal is running out of options to expand. If he's going to lose this war, he'll lose any opportunity to expand, because this one's probably not going to happen. So he needs to keep this war alive, and he also needs to think about taking this base, taking it away from Reynor, because he's going to be down to 1 more expansion, and he's lost a lot of minerals in his main natural third. And, yeah, the gold is going to run out soon, too. And also provide another pathway for all these pesky little Lings. Reynor's certainly known for his Ling usage, and he's been showing a lot of it here in this game. 10 drones go down with the harassment on the top left. Liberators trying to take control of this main base. I mean, well, he might even take, like, the actual minerals and gas here. He has enough command centers. Like, why not? Who was the Terran that you said wanted, like, 10 command centers? I gotta be more specific about that. Every Terran wants 10 command centers. You're talking about notoriously greedy Terrans, then maybe Marine King Prime? bomber? I'm not sure. Corruptors coming in to once again provide more use than just tearing down battlecruisers. Still alive, they took down a planetary, and are now taking down the Liberators. This is something that the Thors can absolutely help out with. They have that range where the Cyclones have to get in range first. It can be a little bit more difficult. A Thor-Liberator combination can actually hold almost any line. So another reason is that a couple of Thors added into the mix, even if they're not going Broodlords, can be very, very helpful. But unfortunately, just Thor's a little shy about taking on the might of Reynor's army, so he's going to lose the command center kind of for free there. He does still have plenty, and if he's continuing to push and attack in this direction, it's not the worst thing to have orbitals, but the idea is you're going to have to protect them, right? It's supposed to a planetary, which is nice and easy. Cyclones do terribly against Lings, so a Cyclone run-by is generally not that great. You know, the Cyclone Hellbat combo. Yeah, Reynor. Now at about to lose his natural, and that's where he decided to put his hive, so maybe not the best idea there. But this middle path has been opened up completely. uThermal, I mean, that's actually a really good idea to put a Widow Mine there, and even has drilling claws, so it's a bit of a scout. You also get a decent punch into those Lings, but it sees it come. There's not much you can do about it. He's trying to take on the army to the right side, and he had such an abusive position on the high grounds with Liberators, but the Thors were late to the party, and now they're not here defending this planetary either, and Reynor takes out the army, defends his natural, and takes down the command center, one that uThermal really desperately needed, and might even get a couple of cancels on 2 more command centers that he needs. He's gonna escape, maybe? Well, not a lot, actually. He might as well just take down whatever he can before every single corrosive bile is gone. Okay, he escapes for some units. But that was a very nasty trade there for uThermal. He wants to have a situation where all of his army is up against all of Reynor's army, and he is the one in the abusive position. That is definitely his ideal, but it's just not happening. Reynor is constantly forcing him to move around, even forcing him to make mistakes like not dodging a corrosive bile. Reynor's movement in this game is certainly commendable. Corruptors being retained as well have helped a lot with this transition to Liberators, which can sometimes catch a Zerg player by surprise. They've thrown away their Corruptors, or they've died in a battle or something like that, and then suddenly, bam, 8 Liberators show up. But they have stayed alive for the majority of this game, but this game does seem to be falling apart a little bit. Reynor is starting to run out of money, so it's not over yet. Despite expanding pretty well, Reynor has also been losing a lot of units. There's a 4,000, almost 5,000 resource difference. Not as much as uThermal would have hoped, though. He would have wanted a much bigger resource loss difference, and then also would have wanted to stop Reynor from having any resources. But it's still a difference, and Reynor is still, you know, going for very expensive armies whenever he trades out like this. Just the Banelings themselves, suicidal, cost a lot of gas. We all know the deal. But he's expanding yet again, and while he's never really accrued a bank in this game, he has cut down uThermal's bank. He has cut down uThermal's workers and just general economy. Gas could really start to be an issue here for uThermal as he's running out of his gas geysers at his bases, and well, never got this one. Whereas Reynor is at least consistently mining, but he does need to get his own gases up. Speaking of gas problems, he has never taken these gases up to the top left. That could be a big problem. Not even this gas has been taken. Not even this gas, actually. Wow. Surprisingly gas light. I mean, he might need to fix that very, very soon. Cyclone lock onto the hive. He's going to be able to get it. It's also going to cancel Burrow. But again, is it the most important thing right here? And oh my god, actually the Banelings crashing through the Hellbats and the Cyclones means he doesn't get the hive. He doesn't get it. Oh. Salt in the wound right there. It was already devastating to lose that army like he just did, but then to not get the hive, not stall out Burrow. And by the way, these drones mining from these patches should just never happen. That is unfortunate. Did you finish Resident Evil yesterday? I did not finish it. I think I'm very close to finishing it. I play my non-StarCraft 2 games on Tuesday usually. Yeah, too bad these have been freely mining. But it's Reynor. I mean, his mineral bank is finally starting to happen here as less engagements go on in the game, or more accurately, Reynor takes much more convincing engagements. Oh, this Widow Mine, though. Wow, these Widow Mines. But his gas bank is still a little low. He finally took the base, the gas up to the top left, but uThermal might be able to barely remax. He's looking kind of desperate. He's starting to think these Widow Mines are doing a good enough job, and certainly they are. I don't think going into Widow Mines is really ever the answer. Oh. Oh, no. Initially, the Thors are doing okay there, but that quickly turned, and Ling's fully upgraded Ling's inside the main base. I guess that's why he was trying to go for the Widow Mines. An emergency response to this. I think Widow Mines and Hellions produce at the same rate, but the Hellions would have gotten surrounded in worse ways than the Widow Mines. I see what he was trying to do there, but it is truly desperate for uThermal, who just never truly won the momentum war. He never really stuck it to Reynor and then, you know, actually kept his position. It's like he pushed Reynor's head into the mud a couple of times, but then Reynor just, like, scrambled away every single time and continued slinging mud at him from afar. And then eventually uThermal would catch him, and it turned into a position where, yeah, maybe uThermal was taking some okay engagements and was catching him by surprise, but eventually Reynor was the one just taking on the armies, taking on the economy, taking down planetaries that are fully upgraded. Things that just aren't supposed to happen, and unfortunately are going to lead to the end of this game for uThermal. There's a really sick display of this map and how this could be used in the future, but I think it also highlighted how this could be faulty. The idea of the Terran's power, the way they expand here, the way the battle mech can work here, is fantastic, and maybe against a worse Zerg, it would have worked out. But then we also saw how Reynor just kind of adapted and overcame it. He kept the main base alive for a shockingly long time, but more importantly expanded around it anyways, and then opened up all the pathways that are available on this map to the middle to make it a map that he actually could continue to run bys and continue to get surrounds, because I think that's exactly what uThermal was hoping wouldn't happen. You're protected by minerals, you're protected by minerals, you're protected by minerals, so you're only pushing, not worrying about surrounds. Actually got surrounded quite a bit in this game. uThermal's not gonna give up yet, even though he's sub 100 supply, and he knows Reynor still has all the bases at the top left. It's a kind of a heartbreaker. There was a few moments where it just seemed like it was positions that looked like they were unbreakable, and then suddenly they were just broken. GG. Reynor, he's good. He's pretty good. Why hasn't uThermal gotten siege tanks? Siege tanks, I mean, he could have maybe gotten a few, but siege tanks also do poorly in a surrounds, and siege tanks kind of mess up the flow of the battle mech. Like, battle mech is more mobile, it's trying to catch you in bad positions, it's trying to, as I said, like, stick it to you, like, push you up against a wall and just never let you go. Whereas regular mech with tanks, it slows you down. It doesn't provide the pressure, so Reynor could have, like, out-expanded and then out-teched him as well and gotten to Broodlords and all that. I do think often a couple of tanks anchoring battle mech is good, but even when he did have a couple of tanks, they just got surrounded. It'd have to be like a full transition into like actual tank-based play, which Reynor would have identified and also would have combated. It's usually more of a bio thing. No, it's not more of a bio thing. It's more of a pacing thing. You're also slowing down your remax potential. Because with bio, when you get tanks, and let's see the introductions. Eternal Imp. Eternal Empire here. Bottom left, it's uThermal. Top right, it's Reynor. With bio, tanks are there to anchor a position, right? They're that splash that's very good, but they just usually find a position and they kind of use it and abuse it. And then because bio is mobile, you can try and do drops as well, right? It also means that you only, like, 2 tanks suddenly are a lot better when they're protected by 16 Marines. Tanks, ultimately, though, overall, do slow down your composition. And it's a trade-off as to whether that's actually good enough. Tanks and bio work out beautifully together. Tanks and cyclones don't work out so beautifully together. The tanks are overwhelmed, right? Let's imagine a position where the tanks, like there's 3 tanks, 5 tanks, 6 tanks even, safeguarding 6 cyclones and 6 hellbats. If they're overwhelmed, they're gone. They're instantly gone, right? The battle mech can actually escape and can come back another day. The tanks are just dead. Tanks also are not just a little more expensive, but they're also much slower to build. Not sure how much slower they are than cyclones, but certainly slower than those hellbats. And they don't reposition nearly as well either. They actually have to siege up, right? So the idea with battle mech is that you're just consistently pushing into your opponent and really keeping them on the balls of their feet, their heels rather, the heels. You include tanks, it slows you down. The surrounds that he was getting bopped by work anyways. I don't think it's a bad idea to have transitioned into tank mech, because that we certainly see that from battle mech. But I don't think it went along with the idea that he was going for. And if he had gone into a slower composition that just like slowly encroached on that main base, Reynor is even more abusively going to just go around the map and just say, okay, yeah, take those bases, see you later, bye. Like, good luck catching up with me. That's my perception on things. I'm sure if you asked uThermal, he'd have different opinions as to why, like, an actual tank-based mech doesn't work. Maybe on that map or in that position. Pretty typical openers for the start. 3rd CC once again here for uThermal. Not thinking you can surprise Reynor with any hellbat attack. I mean, Reynor, he might not have known about the 3rd CC, especially because he didn't actually have sight on the supply depot thing I was talking about, but he did know about the battlecruiser, and that ended up being so much more important because there really was no great momentum start. Even when uThermal had his cyclones and hellbats and tanks, actually it was tanks, his tanks and hellbats attacking into the main base. As I pointed out, Reynor might have taken a long time to defend against it. He lost actually a decent number of Ravagers against it. He had already expanded elsewhere and was already, like, taking the map to the top side. So the 3rd CC, I mean, you do want to know about it. It does change the timings. It does change your approach. If you find out fast enough about it, too, you could even try and punish it. A little unlikely to do that, though, but you can. It didn't seem to matter so much as it was that battlecruiser just not doing anything. And not really starting the momentum in uThermal's favor. They kind of made up for themselves later. They helped with that second push into the main base, which is pretty brutal. I think the most surprising thing about the last game was just that it was not ended with uThermal's pushes into the main. They looked so deadly, they looked so powerful, they looked so abusive, and Reynor's just somehow made it look like it was meh. Like it was, I don't like it, but, like, okay, I'll deal with it. Which is extra surprising considering that Reynor has negative opinions about Terrans on the new maps. Oh, that's what I was going to bring up. Hot diggity dog. Alright, so first of all, bio here from uThermal. No battlecruisers. Reynor, he got a full scouts of everything happening here because he went for Overlord speed. So he knows everything. So he knows that at 3rd CC typically delays any drop or push by a full minute. Unless there's a 3rd CC build out there that's like a 2-1-1. But regardless, like a full minute. And he knows it's bio, so you can kind of predict how the flow of the game's going to go. But his faster layer here is going to be used for some decently timed mutas, which has really become quite popular. The more we see bio, the more we saw mutas. You know what, guys? I lost it. Oh, the maps. Oh, thank God I found it again, because that was going to really bother me. Yeah, so maps generally, when they're, like, if it's a new map, right? A new map, I'd say for the first month. I think the first month. Terrans are really good on the maps. I mean, there's a reason that Terrans usually win the Team Liquid map contests. And it does seem a bit of a trend for especially Zerg players to complain about the maps for the first couple of weeks of them being released. Terrans just, they actually find these like nooks and crannies, the good positions for tanks. And they get a couple of like, not free wins, but wins that are just almost shock factory. You know, it's like a macro hellbat all in. Oh, I didn't know that was so abusive. Shit, okay, I need to prepare for that next time. But the longer a map is out, the more opportunity you have to talk between yourselves, I guess, amongst all the Zerg pros and Protoss pros and whatever. And caution and warn and direct attention to those types of pushes. So, like, I think Nightshade is a very good example of this. Initially, Nightshade, if we remember, like, around that 4th base that Zergs get, can be very abusive for Terrans. And it still is a very good pushing point for them, but it's not an imbalanced map, is it? Zerg players are running run-bys, they're getting surrounds, they're taking care of it. So, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes Terrans get this, like, you know, maybe it's also the reason we thought it was a Terran patch, and it really wasn't. Because the new maps, new season, new meta, blah, blah, blah. Terrans seem to take advantage of it the most initially, and then it kind of dies off. Anyways. There was a tank push here that honestly was a little scary, but one of the things you do when you go for these mutas is you also go for pretty fast baneling and baneling speed, because you don't have much else protecting you. You've invested so much into the mutas, at the very least you could have a handful of banelings with actually, you know, roly-polies. But his creep spread was also okay. It was actually a little scary. I actually thought that uThermal would stick there. He did not. I think it was a combination of seeing the roly-polies as well as the mutas showing up when they did, because it's not so much that he didn't have anything to defend against it. He did. It's that you're distracted. And if you're distracted and you're trying to push, it doesn't really work out. So, probably a wiser choice to pull back there. I don't think the armory was done either, so his Hellbats weren't there just to easy-peasy soak up a couple banelings. And Reynor has stopped the push before it even really began. And is now going to creep this side up. He's already creeped the right side up. uThermal, all attention to the 3rd CC, and then this potentially powerful push has not gone for any drops. Has not done anything to actually stop the creep spread. And now is going to get completely surrounded. Oh, God. Oh, my God. At least he picked up. But, oof, that was painful. That is supposed to be a safe space for Terrans. Off creep, like, significantly off creep. Like, why are you attacking me? Well, because there's actually nothing to stop Reynor from attacking him. He's up to 83 workers, 5 bases, decent amount of creep spread. If he does take an unfortunate attack offensively, he should have enough time to pull back and actually remake those banelings and hold anyways. So, yeah. Reynor's been allowed to be a little out of control. uThermal is not in a bad spot either macro-wise. He's got some evenly timed upgrades. Oh my god, he actually misses the active creep tumor. That sucks so bad. But, oh, things are about to go in favor of Reynor if he lets him continue to just, yeah, well, take control of the map over like this. Like the creep spread, as well as the mutas, actually finding a hole in the main base. He's got to pile in the pressure, and he's trying. A couple units to the north side not doing too much. There's not a lot of splash damage in this army that I can see, and so many Marines are on the front line that even with the Widow Mines that he does have, they're so far back, they're not really helping. He picks up immediately. He knows where the mutas are as well. Marines are trying to chase them down. And Thor was trying to chase them down too, but they are coming, and there's no recall option for Terran. He tries to go offensive with the medevac. He even loses one of them with full Marines inside, but is now trapped inside of the Zerg's main base. Not quite on a creep. It doesn't matter. There's no place for him to micro. He does take out the Lings, but here come the Banelings, and there's nothing he can do about that. The mutas also came back too, and uThermal drops down in supply so significantly. Couldn't even save the medevacs. And like I said, it felt like Reynor was going to take control very quickly. Such a momentum-based matchup, and with nothing really happening. It was up to Reynor to find a hole, to distract uThermal, to find a surround opportunity. And he absolutely did. Now up to 22 mutas with +2 flyer attack almost done. That's an insane count of mutas. Like, you need to hope for them to run by your Marines or run over 4 Widow Mines. And if you're hoping for them to make a mistake, you're already in a tough spot. Planetary is going to get destroyed by a bunch of Banelings. Easy. And that is just a tap out there. GG. Not as interesting of a game as the first one. That's how it goes. Zerg's are the loudest balance miners? I don't know about that.